I ordered my kids to loot my brother's house. My kids and I have this quirky tradition we started years ago with Legos. It began with small builds: Darth Vader riding a llama, a pirate sipping tea in a mini garden. Over time, it turned into a game of leaving these Lego Easter eggs hidden around the house. We'd sneak them onto bookshelves, under tables, or in the fridge to surprise each other. It became our own little family ritual, something uniquely ours that brought a lot of laughs and some pretty creative Lego scenes. Last month, my brother and his family came over for a visit, and my nephew got really into the Lego scenes scattered around our home. He kept finding them, cracking up and telling me how cool the whole idea was. I noticed a few of our builds had disappeared after their visit, and my first thought was that my nephew might have taken them home. No big deal, I figured he was just excited, and the Legos would make their way back to us soon enough. I casually asked my brother if he could bring them back the next time we saw each other, and he promised he'd do just that. But weeks went by, and the Legos were still missing. Every time I saw him, he'd laugh it off, saying, "Oops, I forgot again. Next time for sure." After the fourth or fifth time, I was starting to get a little annoyed. I knew it was small, but our Legos were a sentimental part of our family's day-to-day fun. Plus, they weren't cheap. Finally, I decided to add a bit of humor to the situation and turn it into a game. When my brother invited us over for a barbecue, I saw an opportunity. Before we left, I gathered my kids and said, "All right, here's the deal. You know how Uncle has our Legos? Well, I want you to grab whatever you want from his house. Think of it as a Lego treasure hunt, except we're taking back more than what we lost." My kids, being the absolute maniacs they are, didn't need any more encouragement. The second we walked into his house, they were off like a pack of wild animals. I watched as they darted around, grabbing things with gleeful abandon. It was all in good fun, or so I thought. By the time we left, my kids had stuffed their bags with everything from TV remotes to beer mugs. They even tried to grab his dog at one point, though I quickly put a stop to that. We got home and unloaded the loot, laughing about the whole thing. But later that night, I got a call from my brother. "I'm missing half the stuff from my house," he said, clearly not amused. I chuckled and played innocent, telling him I'd check with my kids to see if they'd accidentally taken anything. He wasn't buying it. He knew exactly what had happened. His voice was a mix of annoyance and disbelief as he demanded his things back. I replied with a smirk he couldn't see, "Sure thing, I'll bring your stuff back next time I see you, just like you promised with our Legos." Less than an hour later, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, my brother stood there, holding a box filled with our missing Lego builds. He looked both exhausted and ticked off, and I could tell he wasn't in the mood for jokes. I gave him his things back right then, but I couldn't resist adding, "Well, maybe next time you won't forget." He didn't find it funny. He muttered something about how I'd gone too far, turned on his heel, and left without another word. The next day, I got an earful from my parents too. They said I'd crossed a line, that it was just Legos and I shouldn't have taken it so seriously. I told them, it's karma, an eye for an eye, or in this case, a remote for a Darth Vader on a llama. Now my brother's still salty, and the rest of the family is acting like I committed some great heist. But honestly, I don't regret a thing. It was a silly way to make a point, sure, but it got him to understand what it feels like to be on the receiving end. And in the end, I got my Legos back.